Güvenç. Benim adım Murat Güvenç. İstanbul'da Kadir.
Hello, my name is Murat Güvenç. I am the director of Istanbul Studies Center at Kadir University. But in today's meeting, we will be hosting an international researchers group that is newly created. I am standing here in front of you as a member of this group. So now I'd like to open this session as I was asked and to give you a brief framework related to the discussion. That's what the moderators have to do. Another duty of the moderator is timekeeping. I don't know how to do that, but this international group's name that I'm a member of is the Metropolis. Metropolis word is composed of two words, heritage and metropolis. When you combine these two, there is Metropolis. When you follow these streets, like from building to neighborhood to city to the region, and now the metropolitan scale. That's how we handle heritage in our group. So that's what our group is doing. Today, in this session, we have two speeches. In the first speech, we will hear about the heritage group's work in around 20 metropoles of Istanbul in culture and historical protection scale, and basically a global survey report that has been reviewed from the local and the global reports. The world premiere will be done for the first time and will be offered to the public opinion. This report at the same time is also a part and will be offered to the agenda of UNICEF and Habitat. We have Eric Huybrechts to present this, and then so dwelling on this report, and he will be offering some examples too. The second speaker is coming from Milano, Politecnico, Antonella Contin, Politecnico di Milano. She will be talking about various preservation and protection studies that have been completed in Milano. So first we will be hearing the details about the report, and then we'll be hearing about the examples in different contexts of that report. So we have 68 minutes as of now. So we'll try to use this time in a flexible way. Without further ado, I'd like to now invite our guest, Eric, to the stage. Thank you.
Yeah, now it's working now. Okay. So thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here to participate to this session on we said the metropolitan heritage. And so the idea at the beginning from our research group, research forum, was to think what is this correlation, this relation between two things, the heritage, because we are a lot of people coming from this field, and the metropolis. And why the metropolis today? Because we consider that we are in the century of the metropolis. It is the metropolis century today. Half of the urban population today live in metropolis, based on the statistics from UN Habitat, UNDESA, and this increase, the proportion is increasing. And so we can say 1/3 of the population of the world live in metropolitan areas. And so we can consider that the metropolis is our legacy for the next generation. It's the main artifact of this century. And so for this reason, because it is a legacy, we should have in mind that what we will propose for the next generation with what we are doing today at the metropolitan scale. And so the main question for us is, what is the value of the metropolis? What is the quality of the heritage that will offer for the next generation? What will be this quality? It will be high quality or low quality, etc. So, and it becomes heritage when it has value, because we try to preserve or try to have an idea about what is valuable to propose for the next generation. So this is just the beginning, was this. But we have, when we go further on that topic, we think that the metropolis is different than the other heritage artifacts that we have in mind. At the beginning, there were the monuments, after the historical centers, the landscape, and in 2011, UNESCO proposed a recommendation on historical urban landscape, which is an approach. It's not a definition of a new heritage. It's an approach taking into account all the dimension, the geographical dimension of a heritage. The morphology, the soil, the economy, the social issues, the environment, etc. So, but this is an approach. And so, based on that, we can say that what is specific with the metropolis? What is a metropolis? Metropolis, everybody say, yeah, metropolis is a big city. But it's not a big city, it's different. It's not only a city, it's not only urban, it's urban and rural. Why? Because there is a kind of consensus on what is a metropolis. A metropolis is really, it is the economic basin related to the main pole, the main economic activity hubs that are in the urban areas. And so if you think about the commuting, people are coming from the urban agglomeration, the urban areas, but also from villages around, or for hamlet around. And so the metropolis generally is everywhere, is urban and rural. Just an example, Paris metropolis, not Paris Métropole, which is an institution, but the functional urban area, as the definition of OECD, or French definition is similar. This is the metropolis. In Paris, it is 3/4 of the metropolis is rural. And so this is very interesting because we don't think about only urban or only the nature in the city. This is interesting, but it's not that. It is nature and agriculture and city all together in the same area. So the mobility basin, daily mobility basin, and the economic basin is the metropolis. So this is the main definition. So it is based on an economic definition, in fact. And after that, in that territory, we can say, difficult to define exactly because it's moving from time to time, from day to day. And after the COVID, the practice of mobility changed. Now we have peak days with people coming in the city, and others are not peak days. So we can consider that the size of the metropolis changed from day to day. And during the COVID, there was no mobility, so the size of the metropolis shrank. And now it becomes like before. So it's not a territory, in fact. It's something which is moving from time to time. And probably we know that we have in mind that the metropolitan population will increase in this century, probably, if the economy is running like it is running today, despite the fact we should change our model, but for the moment it is the trend, it's that. Except in some countries, like in Japan, in Russia, where, except Moscow, cities are shrinking. Well, post-Soviet countries, a lot of countries are losing population. China is not at the top, but going down. At the end of the century, there will be half of the current population of China. So there will be a lot of change. But globally, in Africa, in India, South Asia, Southeast Asia, and other places, it will be expanding very fast. And so this is the first point is that. The metropolis is that. It's an economic definition. It is not really an object. It is something which is moving. So it's not comfortable for people thinking about heritage to have an object. This is not stable. It's never stable. Monuments change, historical. But this is something multiform and etc. And so when we think, what is the artifact of the metropolis? What is what makes the metropolis itself, except this mobility basin, etc.? We think about the function of the metropolis. And the function of the metropolis is based on a metropolis is a hub connecting the rest of the world, and it's also the center part of the mobility basin. And so it is mainly related to networks and hubs and nodes. And so what makes the metropolis? It is the infrastructure, the connection, material and immaterial, and the centers. So airports, conference centers, university, because they are well connected with worldwide, CBDs, railway station. These are the artifacts of the metropolis. But it's not only that, not only this one. There is other elements we'll go later. But when we think like this, what is important in a CBD is not the tower itself. You can change the tower, the function remains. And so, when you think about metropolitan heritage, you don't think about we should conserve this one, don't touch it, this is very important, we should keep it, or perhaps we should keep it. But sometimes we can say if you have a better tower, we have Tour Montparnasse, which is ugly in Paris, it will be redesigned with a new design, totally different, and it will be better for the city itself. And so our approach is not conservative. Our approach is dynamic when you think about the metropolitan heritage. We think about we should increase the value of the metropolis. We should give more quality of life, more quality of design, more quality in the, not only quality of life, but the efficiency is one part of the question, etc. And so what is interesting in that research program, and I think it will be a permanent research program because the metropolis is changing from time to time, and the concept will change. We can have confidence with researchers to define new concepts every year. And so when we think about this concept, I think it is for the research. This research forum will have a long life to define different things. So now I would like to present you a few elements on our program. So we begin on an idea that I launched in Shanghai in 2018. It was a seminar on the historic urban landscape at WITRAP in Shanghai. And so I produced this idea to metropolitan heritage. I put this in the basket and say, yes, this is interesting, we go. And after that, we tried to have a big conference in China, but it collapsed for political reasons. But then we say what we can do with this idea. And so we launched just the idea on the global network, on the web, and we have the chance to have some very well-connected people like Antonella, like Mike Turner, Francesco Bandarin, and others, and to find connection. And we have from the beginning, we have the support of MTPA, which is the global network of planning agencies, so people working on metropolitan issues. to support the decision maker to prepare policies and strategies. And we ask UN Habitat, the metro hub of UN Habitat, and Rafa is here today to support us, if they are interested in this idea, because it can be part of their political agenda at the global level. And they say yes. And so we go on that with UNI, which is the network of university of UN Habitat, of the UN, in fact. And the network grow with Istanbul, with Barcelona here, with Oriol, Murat, of course, and others. And now today we have around 20 metropolis after 2 years working on that, and 10 others want to come. It's easy to come, just call us or write an email, and we just explain. And the entry point is to produce a survey on your city, to have key elements on what is the situation regarding heritage and the metropolis, and what are the trends or the new ideas, what is innovative. So I will present you now to change the slide, you have this one. The result of the survey, the survey was, it's a permanent survey because we have today, this one, huh? Yeah. So we have a global survey global, it's only 15 metropolis. But this is global because it is increasing from time to time. So it's unfinished work. And so you see we have all the cities, Barcelona, Beijing, Buenos Aires, from Asia, from South America, from the Middle East, from Europe, yes, and Mediterranean cities. So Istanbul is there, of course, very important, because this is the largest, in competition with Moscow, the largest metropolis in Europe, and one of the largest of Asia. So this is particular. And so we have all of them, and they produce their paper of around 10 pages each, and to try to describe the current situation and to show the emerging trends and what is innovative regarding heritage. And so, and we have in mind that how to define the value of the metropolis, how to define this, and what is the global tools that we have today to define this value, the concept. And we think that we should, what is global is UN, and UN produce different things, UNESCO, UN Habitat, the New Urban Agenda, the SDGs. We can pick in that inspire us to develop the concept of the value of the metropolis. Okay? So we have these elements, and there are two. And so the idea was to tackle different subjects regarding the survey, to cover, of course, history, socioeconomics, environment, and other elements, and political economy. But the idea of the survey was to cover the different dimension of the heritage related to the metropolis. Perhaps one of the very important, two important things in that topic is, and this is a real problem for the politicians who are working at the metropolitan level. It is, what is the DNA of your metropolis? What is the soul of your metropolis? What makes it, what is your identity? When you have the feeling to be part of a metropolis, you are living in the suburbs of Istanbul, are you part of Istanbul or not? You're living in villages at 30 kilometers of Istanbul, and you come every day in Istanbul, are you from Istanbul or not? This feeling is a real big concern for, not only for citizens, but also for the politicians, to convince that the metropolis is a reality. If there is no sharing of this identity, we can consider the metropolis doesn't exist, in fact, in the mindset of the actors. And so we are working on that. We try to define what makes What is the process to build this metropolitan identity, for example? Is it only branding? Is it only metropolitan marketing? Or is it something more deep, something more important in the mind of the inhabitants, the citizens, or the users? And so this is the other element which is really important is to have in mind that because of the nature of the metropolis is urban and rural, it is also very important to change our mindset regarding the subjects. So when you have not only people, I can say, with an urban identity, they should have a metropolitan identity, which is not specifically urban. So there is other characteristics that are very interesting, is that the metropolis, because it is a hub that attracts a lot of people connected with the rest of the world, this is the function of the metropolis, is that, to support the global economy. It is, by nature, it is cosmopolitan. And so we're more comfortable to speak about culture than identity, in fact. Because culture makes the different identity. And by nature, a metropolis is a mix of identity. And creates specific new culture, which is the convergence of this. You have new music, you have new languages. In Mombasa, there is specific languages, which is a mix of the different communities. And so we cannot focus, as usual, with heritage, what is the identity, and we should keep this identity. This is not the topic, is not that. It is what is emerging as a cosmopolitan culture in the metropolis. And so this is what we're doing around that. And so we have different case studies, and it is very interesting, and I'm sure Antonella will explain with other examples, but to see that how Beijing is looking for his heritage. And it was a long process coming from the monuments. Where we were working in the 80s with Beijing and Shanghai. They discovered the concept of urban heritage. There was only monuments at this time. And now they are thinking their heritage in large scale. For example, with Beijing, with the north-south symbolic axis that they are working on and they are destroying some towers to preserve this axis, not only for the wind, but because it is a symbolic axis of the city. So, but it is more, we can say, for the change of scale in Beijing, but it is a really conservative, or we can say old-fashioned approach. Barcelona, of course, Barcelona is innovative, as usual. And Barcelona is very interesting because they integrate really the question of heritage in their planning system, in their planning documents. And so we can say that it's not the case. Most of the cities don't take into account the heritage at the metropolitan scale. Here in Barcelona, in the metropolitan documents, they introduced this. In London, the same, or in a few cities, but not in Paris. In Paris, imagine Paris, the city of culture. This is the DNA of Paris, the city of heritage. This is the city who have the largest number of World Heritage property comparing other cities in the world. 6 or 7, I don't know. 6. And then we can say that the Paris don't say in the current master plan at the regional scale, the metropolitan scale, they say that there is not a word on heritage except to say the heritage is an asset for the economic development. That's all. It's not a subject. Wow. London has a chapter, full chapter on heritage. Paris, nothing. So there is different approaches. There is different consideration. And so Buenos Aires introduced, they are more on culture than heritage. So this is a very living city, very dynamic. They have a very interesting heritage, but this is not. This is more on culture than heritage. London is on heritage. Barcelona also. So this is interesting to see that, including the people who are thinking at the metropolitan scale, how they take this into account and they put it on the table when they decide to adopt a document that is a mandatory document, a legal document to manage the metropolis. So you see, when we make this analysis, our idea is to say that if there is not, perhaps there should be, or if there is not, there is some reason for that. And so we can question the politicians and the planning agencies and other actors. Why? Why you don't put the heritage at the scale of the metropolis? So it's a new question for them. Voilà. So we discuss in the report with we discuss the concept of the what is the relation? How do you make this connection with the new urban agenda, with the SDGs? You know, the SDGs 11.4 is on heritage, but what is the meaning of that? If you think about some of the of large cities like Seoul produce VLR, a voluntary local report. Los Angeles or others, but Los Angeles is not yet in our group. They produce and they scan all their policies and to see how it is related to the SDGs, for example. So this is very interesting. This kind of report is very interesting to scan. And so we are looking, is there anything about the SDG 11.4 in that report? Because this is the key entry. But this is not the only entry, because nature is very important. And generally, when we speak about heritage, is think about the formal heritage, the monument, the historical center, and the landscape, but which is classified. But here we want to go further. So they present this. So what is you can also say that there is the approach is different from cities to cities. Some are very conventional, you can say like Seoul, classical heritage, but there are very few heritage. But in East Asia, the heritage is, what is the most important is you can renew totally. It was the case in Korea because everything was destroyed during the war in the 50s, but they rebuilt totally the heritage. The imperial palace is wonderful, and others, forts, etc., are totally rebuilt, but they are heritage. When you discuss with RPA New York, they say, for us, the heritage is not the Empire State Building or Chrysler Tower. This is not important. This is not our DNA. Our heritage, it is New York, it is anti-institutional. So our heritage is more the intangible. It is when you have the music, the graffiti, the jazz at the beginning, last century, or today when you have a big manifestation, a lot of people go to the street for LGBT, for the different communities, and this is New York. What is vibrant in New York, which is against the institutions, in fact. And they say this is our heritage. The most important is that. The graffiti is more important than the Empire State Building. So you think the approach, what represents the metropolis, is less the statue of the liberty statue, than the graffiti. And so we're moving from cities to have different different approach, different type of understanding. So the intangible heritage is something very important. We are producing different elements with this subject. Like we produced last year with Sciences Po. We work on with École d'Urbanisme de Paris School of Urban Planning. We work on the Metropolitan Belvedere, how the metropolis is looking on itself at large scale. And for us, it's very important because we have, in Paris city, we have 1,268 municipalities, so it's very small municipalities. And when you speak about the metropolis, which is the regional scale, this is quite the same, the functional urban area and the region. We have this chance in Paris. To make this visual connection between from place to place that is crossing several dozen of municipalities, that gives sense to make this cohesion in the metropolitan area. Now we're working on another subject, which is the heritage in the suburbs with Madrid and Edinburgh. The idea is to have a look on what is the meaning of the heritage in the periphery. Because it's not the case in Paris, but most of the city, most of the institutional heritage, it is in the center. But in Paris, Versailles, Fontainebleau are not in the city center, but generally it is like that. And so the idea is to think about so we're working with in workshop with the citizens, with the local bodies and the private sector. We have workshop to define different types of heritage based on 3 concepts, which is the patrimonialization, metropolization, and globalization concept with a lot of indicators, 80 indicators, I think. And so there is different elements like that. And so what will be the future of the metropolis and the future of heritage? So if we consider that the concept of heritage is changing when you're looking at the metropolitan scale, it's less conservative, more dynamic, something which is more proactive, and that question the policies, the metropolitan policies, to give more value for the metropolis, to have more value for the next generation. This change probably the approach, the view that we can have on the different metropolitan policies. So I think the main elements probably is there, how to push the politicians, the decision makers, and those who are producing this metropolitan policies in all fields, how to push them to take into account what will be the legacy for the next generation. So thank you very much.
Can you hear me? Yes. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for this invitation. I really would like to pass from what and why to how. I coordinate a unit of research in the Department of Architettura e Studi Urbani of the Politecnico di Milano. And we try to develop projects since 2000, more or less, trying to identify the nature of the metropolis and also the cultural identity of the metropolis. And I would like to start with a little excerpt of the speech that in September 20, in New York, the Secretary General of the United Nations said. He said, "Dear friends, what has been clearly demonstrated by all the testimony we have heard today from government, regions, city, business, from asset owners, is that the 1.5-degree limit is achievable. We are not talking about a dream. We are talking about something that can be real if we mobilize all our energy to make it a reality. In many ways, however, we are even going backwards. Of course, it is true that we will still see many fossil fuel companies, asset owners, and other companies that seems to be betting and investing in the same logic as those who, at the beginning of the century, were betting and investing in horse-drawn carriage, thinking that this would guarantee them the maximum profits. Every continent, every region, every country is feeling the heat, but I wonder if all leaders are feeling the heat and their efforts have fallen abysmally short. So I think that that is a key message. How we are speaking about heritage and the Metropolis heritage, if it is the Metropolis one of the main reasons why we are in that situation. And that these are other two very dramatic reports. The first one, it's about water, the water scarcity. The water quality will be the issue. And much more, World Urban Forum is saying that the risk for our investment, the investment of the stakeholders, the investment of the powerful and muscular metropolis are under risk due to some climate change disaster. But much more, we can see how the environmental crisis will be the other main risk for our city. And World Urban Forum claimed that the effect of this natural hazard and environmental crisis will have the same impact of a war that will use arm that will destroy the entire humanity. This is a key message. When Habitat a few years ago also suggest us two different approaches. One is a low carbon approach, so we have to consider that the heritage of our metropolitan system, if you consider that the metropolis is a system of places that have to sustain together, we have to take into consideration the scarcity of the research. That is our legacy, the legacy that I will leave to my daughter. But also, we have to start to think about a remedial urbanism. So how this metropolis is not only the issues, the reasons, the causes of our challenges, but it's also the spark, the seed of the remedial. And we know what is going on, how the land use is changing. This is Istanbul. The same city fabric of the Grand Bazaar that almost has a dimension of a settlement, right now is occupied by the Canyon, a beautiful mall in Istanbul. But can you imagine the impact of this new metropolitan project on our territory? And we have to take into consideration that the dimension of the Canyon is almost 350. That is the same dimension of the Bazaar. That was the dimension of the Roman Forum. So how in the past we were able to manage the huge dimension of our metropolitan architecture project in a sustainable way, because the Bazaar is porous. It's possible to pass through the Bazaar. And Torre David in Venezuela also is speaking us about the fact that the metropolis is growing. We are planning this metropolis that happy became always and always stronger, but this is the famous case study of a failure. I don't have time to show this video, but I really suggest you to look at this Ames, Charles and Ray Ames video. The name is Power of 10, and allow us to understand that we have to think that we are dealing with a multiple scale. And in this video, we start from the skin of a man laying on a grass. We goes up until the universe, and we return down into the atom of our skin. That is a key issue. It's not a static way to analyze our metropolis, but we have to deal with different scale. I don't know if you can help me to start this small video from there, because I don't think that I can from here. Can you? No? Okay. But it's very simple example. If you look at a traditional clock and if you look at digital clock, you will see a strong difference, because in our traditional way to look the time, second, minute, hour, are all together. But if we use a digital clock, what is really important are the second, and the hour we finish, and it's a beat. And so we have also to take into consideration that when we are speaking about heritage, we are speaking about time, and the way in which we analyze the time of the metropolis is not hour, but is byte, and what will remain of this very speed time. Another concept that the European community continue to propose us in a lot of projects is the concept of entanglement. What does it mean, entanglement? Entanglement means that for the first time we have to take into consideration that culture, technology, but also biosphere have to be strongly related to each other. So as architect, urban designer, landscaper, politician, for the first time in a very strong way, we have to think that even though we have to work in a very little portion of our territory, we have to take into consideration the earth, and we have to take into consideration the air, because according to Deepak Chakrabarty, for the first time, is it possible that the human being could disappear from the earth? So which is the relation with the history, with the tradition, with the culture, if our life is not only the life of the human being, but our life is strongly related with the life of our planet. And we try also to invert the pyramid of the knowledge. We are not wise because we have a lot of data, but vice versa. We have to be wise to understand, according to our hypothesis of the development of our city and territory, which are the data, very few data, that we have to extract, connect among them, so that to support our hypothesis of development. So in our department, we started to figure out, working on this approach, that is anti-fragile approach. We try to figure out a series of tools, strategy that allow us not only to speak about resiliency, but introducing another concept that was a concept of a famous biologist, Navet, from the Tel Aviv University. We have to invent a new territory. It's not only an adaptive system, but we have to invent a new landscape, new territory that allow us to slow down the risk that the climate change, the global warming is producing in our society. So our hypothesis is that is exactly the new architecture of the metropolitan dimension. So something that is not green, is not gray, but is a green-gray infrastructure that can allow us to support this new dimension of the metropolis, but also this new time of the metropolis. This is a project that we have done here in Istanbul. The request was to define a new waterfront where the ferry boat station and the tram, coastal line tram station, can produce one of these new nodes that Eric Huybrechts proposed as the seed of these structures, this network, Professor Gramsci speak about Metropolis as a network. Only a little note. It's different to speak about polycentric city and network city, because when we speak about polycentric city, the focus is on the node and the pole. But when we are speaking about network network, referring to something that also Kevin Lynch defined lacework. The focus is in the space in between, the space that we name green area, void, but doesn't have a shape because it's cut by the infrastructure. So what is relevant is to define a node, an hinge point, that allow us to define this new shape for the space in between the network. And as architect, what we have to do is to define an architecture that defend the culture of our territory, that is a geographical and cultural legacy. So our project cannot stop the continuity of the green and gray infrastructure, and in particular of the water. So we start as architects from the scale of a new metropolitan architecture project that is almost 1 kilometer for 1 kilometer. Remember that the metropoli of the last century was 110 for 110, Barcelona. Le Corbusier in Barcelona, Plan Maglià, defined the settore urbano, the urban sector, 400 meter for 400 meter, but right now we are speaking about a mega block that is 1 kilometer for 1 kilometer. So as architect, we have to take into consideration the soil, the ground, the green, the blue, and the gray infrastructure. So to understand how a project can defend and conserve the quality of our territory, the continuity of the green and blue is fundamental. So we have to return back to the bigger scale, the scale of Istanbul, and understand which kind of continuity of the green and blue infrastructure that is our culture, is the legacy for our children, which kind of continuity is the bioregion. A metropolis is very close to the bioregion. That is a new concept that is related to the fact that we cannot plan our metropolis if we remain inside the definition of an administrative border. And then we have to understand that our station is one point of the continuity of the Golden Horn. So we study how it is possible to connect the green infrastructure of the Golden Horn with the coastal park. And then we study the node that we found along the huge infrastructure in the Balat neighborhood. And we reinforce this neglected green that we find all around the huge metropolitan or urban highway in the metropolis, and only at the end we arrive at the scale of the project. So this way to work along the scale is fundamental. But we open a debate between the old architect, old urban design, and I agree with them. City was able to define the vase of the green infrastructure, but right now the complexity of our metropolis push us to consider, and in China, for example, this is a project of Turenscape. We are now speaking about not urban design, but landscape urbanism, sponge park, a water catchment, the capability to absorb all the water that define the challenge of our city. This is a project that we have done in Dar es Salaam. Again, it was a railway station. Eric Huybrechts mentioned that the project related to the metropolis are related to this kind of infrastructure, but you see this abstract scheme of our new centrality, 1 kilometer for 1 kilometer. The main hinge point is a collective transportation system, and the architecture, this building with a green roof that allow us to pass through the track of the train and connect the neighborhood with the traditional garden with the new metropolitan park that is a river that for us is what we have to preserve, conserve, and transform in our metropolis. Tomorrow we will have an event, the Metropolitan Day, and the topic that they present is related to which is a connection between the nature and the metropolis. And it's a matter of fact that right now we have to speak about a nature-based solution. Nature-based solution we can speak about a nature-based solution starting from a technical point of view, biological point of view, but I would like to catch your attention to one of the main reasons why we speak about a nature-based solution. Nature-based solutions are fundamental, according to European Community, in shaping and advancing cultural-based solutions. So it's not possible anymore to speak about a cultural-based solution if we not connect the cultural-based solution with natural-based solution. So we can see that the cultural-based approach are related to growing well, culture and tradition, sense of belonging, care of places, sustainable mobility, space and enjoyment for all, beauty. And on the other side, to reach this goal, we have to speak about sustainable management of water, air quality, balance of urban metabolism, protection from extreme event, healthy food production, sustainable effective management of green spaces, mitigation and adaptation, and we can say anti-fragilization to climate change. So if we are able to put together these two approaches, we produce an overall benefit. Education, environmental justice, cohesion, equity, multi-level governance, urban regeneration, health, one health for the city. This is very boring. So that is the technical part of the nature-based solution at the base of this construction of cultural-based solution for Metropolis. Multidimensional revolution, natural human capital, knowledge framework, Anthropocene crisis, way to solve the problem, vulnerability of the landscape, global challenge. But to me, what is important to define, what does it mean Metropolis heritage, are related to this concept. First of all, we as architect, urban designer, decision maker, right now we have to find a strategic alignment between the metacity, so technology, and also ICT technology, transport network, a very complex city fabric, formal and informal, and landscape. And we have to produce a metropolitan revitalization. So we try to identify what does it mean, the DNA of the metropolis. And I don't want to speak about value, because value is tricky. I would like to speak about resources. Your identity, your city fabric, informal, to me, has to be a resource. Probably it's not my value, my way of life, but it can be a resource for me. So the point is it possible to think that heritage can be a tool against gentrification? So not to think that heritage is tourism, but heritage is a tool to allow us, due to the fact that we connect cultural-based solution within nature-based solution, is it possible that the main focus is faced against gentrification? We are speaking about cultural solution integration, so we have to recognize the paramount role of nature-based solution in forming metro cultural-based solution. And we have to think that we have also to explore the fact that I wonder, because when we present our report, we show only images of the traditional monument of the city. Milano is the Galleria. It's not true. Milano is not the Galleria. Probably Milano is Grattosoglio, Lorenteggio, Bovisa. So when we speak about Metropolis, we are speaking about different contexts, and we have to find a way to transform this neglected area in a resource for the city. And the last point is a very strong critique regarding the issue of preservation. When we are speaking about our landscape, a metropolitan landscape, when we speak about preservation, we have to say that preservation is a transformative process, similar to an enzymatic process. So we used to say that when we speak about metropolitan metabolism, that is not only the ecological footprint, so an exchange of flux and energy, but it's the fact that always, if we would like to conserve, we have to maintain. If we would like to develop, we have to substitute. But if we would like to develop, and I know that this word is tricky, we have to transform. So when we are speaking about nature, and nature is not static, it's a process, we have to speak about the fact that to transform means to produce a new process of revitalization of our nature. And that is a challenge, and that is the scope of the Metropolis, because we say that is a system of places. So water is a system, and I have to understand geography is a system. And so it's a continuum that right now doesn't exist, that we have to be able to foster. And what to me is super important are these two elements. We are speaking about multi-governance level, but the architecture, and I use architecture as Kant, so structure of the metropolis. Architecture means structure, is environment, is nature, is water, is a system of park from the regional, metropolitan, until the pocket garden in our metropolis. So, and in Latin America, they are start to use this concept of environmental governance, ambiental governance, that we have to connect with multi-level governance to manage the sustainability. And what is relevant is that if we are able to speak about environmental governance, we also consider that this idea of heritage that remains quite abstract is fundamental because, this means that we transform the cure of our environment in a way to engage the society. The problem of the metropolis is that we don't have a metropolitan demos. Who can say, I am a metropolitan citizen? It's very difficult. So I guess that the narrative has to be the environmental governance, the cure of our nature, the cure of our water in particular. So how to transform, encourage engagement through both formal and informal institutional arrangement so that to be able to engage local actors. And it's not my thought, but James Corner spoke about the fact that we can really use environment, air, water, green infrastructure, green and gray infrastructure to engage people in the cure of our territory. Istanbul, you see how the bazaar, the Fatih, were huge dimension in the city, what is going on, also in terms of landscape, paesaggio, panorama, how it's changed. Istanbul was outside. Right now, Istanbul is inside the different metropolitan architecture project. Which kind of heritage? That is the image of Istanbul. The last project was the project by Zaha Hadid, beautiful project that was chosen because it was generic. So how is it possible to speak about Istanbul as a generic city? Istanbul cannot be homologated. And these images, for me, are super beautiful. Istanbul is this shock between the mosque, we are in Ortaköy, I guess, and the image, a sort of Disney World image of the bridge. This is the heritage of Istanbul. And it remains that we study. So the main question, when we speak about a metropolis heritage, and I connect two great master of urban discipline, Kevin Lynch, what time is this place? Which is the time of the metropolis? And Professor Gramsci from the Columbia University that told us, be careful, because the new metropolitan project is a new heterotopia that is very porous, in which we have a multiple pocket function that produce a new legacy of the city. Gramsci speaks about the Metropolitan Architecture Project as a new site, Eritopolis, in reality, is connected with the idea of heterotopia, so the space of the other. The new Metropolitan Architecture Project, also this place, has to be a project that allows us to be porous, to be multifunctional, but also to be able to transform a huge territory as a new geography. So how to transform a site in a place, introducing the new need of the metropolitan population. This was a project that we did in Yeni Kapı, and I don't want to speak about the project of Yeni Kapı right now in Istanbul. I'm sorry, I don't want to be unpolite. The traditional way we use landscape urbanism, but also urban design. We study the dimension of the connection between an madrasa, mosque, this beautiful maidan, continuity of the public space that you have, the capability of the Fatih mosque to be porous, so to be huge like the Rockefeller Center, like the Foro, but to be porous, so something that probably our new project are not. And at the end, we define, and that is an old project, we define the new metropolitan digit, 1 kilometer for 1 kilometer, that also try to reinterpret the culture of the bazaar, of the caravanserai, in a new building that right now has to deal with a section strategy, so incredibly complex regarding the, and in the Yeni Kapı excavation, it was possible to find 22 Roman boats. It was amazing. I don't know where are these boats right now. It's a pity. And so imagine that the Yeni Kapı were a double wall harbor, totally disappear. And so we used the augmented reality to produce a new reality, putting together with new technologies. That is super important to maintain this idea of interphases time of this kind of territory. It was a project that put together the reconstruction of the wall of the Yeni Kapı, the new project, but also a sort of imagining of this area. I don't know if it's possible to help me to start this video. Hey, can you start this video, please? Okay. No, okay, if you start. That was the first 10 years ago, 15 years ago, with Murat Güvenç, we made this seminar, and that was the images that it was a music, but it's not possible. So that was the idea that we reconstruct the harbor. Imagine that the boat were at below 6 meters. So we invent this boat floating in the air because the excavation of the Marmaray Tunnel was very, very low. So if we really would like to communicate the metropolitan heritage, we have to use new technology. We reconstructed the wall, and we are speaking about a futurist archaeology. So how to use archaeology that is without time in a city that used to live within the remains. So how is it possible to connect together the different time, past, present, and future? Transform the boat in some monster. Remember that inside the double wall, it was a sort of production of different colored vegetation because it was cultivated in the past. And of course, we have to introduce art and surrealism approach to communicate this part of the archaeological life of the city. And so we use augmented reality to allow people to be aware about the consistency of the heritage of this metropolis. To finish, Mardin. Mardin is a beautiful Syrian city right now in Turkey. It's amazing. We are close to the fertile land of Babylonia. Incredible. It's a rock, it's Ur. It's fantastic. And the capability of the past to be able to understand the relationship between building and ground, we're able to decrease 10 degrees the temperature or increase the temperature, allow the wind passing through the different area. And the city uses this tunnel to produce humidity and fresh air with the water that is sacred, but also is an incredible nature-based solution to allow the life in this area. So what we try to do is to use the rule of the sun, of the wind, of the ground, and understand how the city works. So the city is on different slope. You see two roads, and it's done because they excavate the stone and rebuilt the stone. So there is a very specific DNA in the construction of the city that in the western part is growing very, very much and in a very fragmented way. So despite all the provision, we identified the dimension of the Roman city, the Foro Romano, 350, 350. So how the history can tell us the DNA of a city. Along the city fabric was not so easy to recognize, but it was possible to find that every 350 meters, it was a monumento, the bazaar, the mosque, the basilica in the past. So we studied the city fabric and the different dimension of the monument, and we said, okay, it's like a music. That is the art that allows us to produce a synthesis of these challenges. And we start to define the different period of the city like different rhythms of a music. And we study the settlement, 350, divided by a road with three different possibilities to reach the house. The normal slope, the super slope, and the middle slope, and we study the room. Every room is 5 meters for 5 meters. And we use technology. So we use digital parametric tools, so the grasshopper, to understand how the DNA of the city was related to the fact that the type was fixed, but had an element of flexibility that was a courtyard, that changed according to the slope of the ground. And so, with the technique, instead to make one project, we were able to make 100 projects, define the relationship between building and plaza, building plazas and streets, so understand how the structure, the DNA of the city, the relation between building and ground were in the past, and how it was possible to give an answer to the majors that would like to build 3 5-star hotel into the city fabric, bombing the city. And we said, no, we have to build something totally new. So you see how identify some parameters that are related to which kind of city fabric do you want, and which is the relation with the sun, with the ground. We were able to define different kind of space, and at the end, we arrived to take a decision. We rebuilt an entire border of the city, and it's really a metropolitan architecture project, really, really huge in the border of the city between the old city and the new city, that use the DNA of the city, the structure of the city for a new metropolitan project. I think that my time is finished, and thank you very much. Antonella, nice to meet you.
Ben konuşmacılara Teşekkür ediyorum. 11'de bitirmemiz lazım. Bir sorumuz vardı. Başka bir soru varsa çok az soru alacak. Çok kısa sorular olabilirse siz buyurun.
I'll ask in English. I found your presentation to be really brilliant. Oh, sorry. Okay. In listening to you, I was thinking about rebuilding Antakya, which was just destroyed in the earthquake, and I found that the questions you were asking could be very relevant. So I'm wondering if this approach could be used to help guide the rebuilding of the city.
So, of course, there is two. When you are in a process of rebuilding, there is different phases. There is the phases of emergency. After that, generally you repair as you can, and after generally there is no planning in this at the beginning, and it is a pity because it is one way to rebuild the society by a collective approach to define the commons, as was said by Antonella, or to define not only the commons but also the social framework to work together on the same vision for the future. And so rebuilding at the metropolitan scale is truly important to develop the vision, because we cannot rebuild only with money and materials. The project of rebuilding is a project of society, in fact. And so it should be taken at the large scale to make it happen in a collective dynamic from the local to the larger scale, which is the metropolitan area. And so, of course, this approach is truly important. The second point is to give more value, and to build back better. So it's not only building, or it's also building the society. It's also building reconstruction is also opening a lot of new possibilities to make the city better, to create the connection that doesn't exist before. But this needs to have a vision. This needs to have a global approach for all the territory which is concerned. So, of course, it should be.
Peki. Bir soru daha alabileceğiz. Ondan sonra kapatmamız lazım. Çünkü saat 11 oldu. Evet, çok. Buyurun.
Thank you very much for both presentations. They were very interesting. The question, or better the comment, is I really like the idea that we love Metropolis so much that they are our heritage to the future, good or bad heritage. No? And when I say good or bad, I also try to discuss the idea of value. When we, as scholars, fly into a large metropolis from the sky, we are fascinated by the metropolis, because it's so huge, a human fact, that you cannot be something else than fascinated. But then when you live in such metropolis every day, you feel like the fatigue and the burden of living in such a place. So as planners, we always build the city to be, no? The city we would like to be better. The metropolis we would like to be better. But still it's very difficult an heritage, the metropolis, because it brings together not just the beauty of this extreme human artifact, but also the complexity and the difficulties of every day in living such a place. So I was wondering if we are already in the condition to consider the metropolis as an heritage, a good heritage, or there are elements in the metropolis still not considered values that make it very difficult to build heritage out of the metropolis. And this, I think, is the big challenge, how we consider the everyday practices of being metropolitan citizen, spaces for hope rather than spaces for difficult and hard life. And if they do not become spaces for hope in every corner of the metropolis, it's very hard to say that this is an heritage. So I think we have a huge task to go through to try to transform in spaces for hope the spaces of the everyday metropolitan life that is very complicated for many people that live very far from city centers, very far from resources, very far from quality sometimes. So this is the big problem. How can I turn the RRR in an heritage? I, as a scholar, love RRR in Paris, the noise, the sounds, the place, the landscapes. But I'm sure that everyday commuter can have hard time thinking that this is the heritage I want to leave to my children. So it's very hard to work on that, and I think the value of the project is in this big challenge.
Peki, burada kapatmamız gerekiyor çünkü başka bir program var, kapanış oturumu. Katılımınızdan dolayı çok teşekkür ederiz.